Hey, welcome back. Well, we've reached the second to last session, and we're going to focus on something that's crucial to everything else we've talked about, your team. Now, we're not HR experts. We're not going to talk a lot about hiring. Instead, we're going to talk about how to be proactive, how to develop the team you need so you're ready to grow instead of just coping with the problems that you can see today. When we think about looking forward, that in no way undermines all that it's taken to build the team you have today, to find the right people, train them, and create a culture. But oftentimes with young companies, that's done because you have this urgent need, and then you create an organization, you create processes around the people who you hire. And that's great. But at a certain point in your company's development, you need more of an infrastructure. It gets harder and harder to just fill in and catch up. And in fact, you might need new roles, you might need new skills, you might need to reorganize. So, one thing to think about is what skills will your business need at twice its size that you don't have today? Because building that staff that's going to take you into the future is more than just adding people. It starts with really looking at the staff you have today. Are they in the right roles? Not the right roles for them, but the right roles for the company. Maybe this person does these two fairly different roles because that's how they started and they kind of like doing those things. Maybe you want to keep them there, but you should be aware that's kind of a one off and that over time you want to evolve away from. Then, for each of those roles, are there clear goals and responsibilities? Do you need to add to staff or improve either the people in the seats or how they're trained, what their skills are? And then, with all of that, are there still performance gaps? And that's going to really point you towards the future. Will you still need this role in this form? And once you've rethought the roles that you're going to have, are you organized correctly? Maybe these things should be grouped together, which you hadn't previously done. With all that, you're going to come to see what the capability gaps are in your company. What skills, what expertise are you entirely missing? One thing to think about is if you were building your team and defining the roles today, what would be different? How would you be differently organized? What skills would you have that you don't currently have? Which roles that you currently have might you not need? This is all called a capability gap. It's the lack of the knowledge, skills, experience, or organizational structure that you need, maybe not today, but in order to get your company where you want it to go. And it can show up in various ways. One way is a founder bottleneck. Because the company lacks certain skills, too many decisions, too many problems end up on your desk. Or in general, decisions get pushed upward. Line staff can't solve the problem, so they push it to a manager. This can make growth feel very chaotic. Everything's a one off, everything is reactive, you're always solving problems. That can easily overwhelm your staff and management. So while they're dealing with all of this, it can be hard to fulfill all of your customer requests, to keep up with customer service, which is obviously not a good thing. And so what ends up happening is that your company feels like it's growing because you're getting busier, but you're not truly growing and you're not getting better. This is something we addressed back in module 2, and we'll put links in the show notes if you want to revisit it. There may well be multiple capability gaps in your company, but a good place to start is by really asking yourself, what problems have you been addressing with stopgap measures or temporary solutions where you really in your gut know that you ought to have a more structural solution? One thing that can create this chaotic growth is when you're delegating, but you're just delegating tasks, not responsibility. When you delegate tasks, an employee is given the job that they're supposed to do and you explain how to do it. You, the owner or the manager, still retains control. It is how most companies grow and it's how many jobs are done. There's nothing wrong with it. It enables you to do more work, to cover more ground, to serve more customers. It's very low risk, but it doesn't really scale in many jobs, and it certainly doesn't help the company overall scale. What you need to do in at least certain roles is start delegating responsibility. In this case, the employee knows the goal and is given the authority to use their judgment and their expertise. This leads to faster decision making. At the ground level, the employee is dealing with the problem. They know the situation more closely. If they're empowered, they can often respond. Now, you can put parameters around that, but within reason, they can solve the problem. For the company as a whole, you can decide more quickly because you're getting better information. You're recognizing problems more readily. All of this enables the company to truly scale, but it does require trust and accountability. That can be hard, but to help yourself get to a point where you can do it again, at least in a few selected roles, you want to ask yourself, what's the cost to you and your company of the things that you haven't yet delegated? Delegating responsibility makes the whole company more flexible, responsive, and ready to grow in a sustainable way. That's because those employees, the ones to whom you have delegated responsibility, own the outcome, not the task. Not only are they more empowered, it lowers the workload on their manager or you because you don't have to oversee them, you don't have to make decisions for them. It also allows them and you and the entire organization to recognize problems and address them more quickly, and also to see new opportunities, to take initiative, to source new ideas. And as a general rule, it's more efficient because work doesn't get done twice. Because the organization's ability to make decisions is both faster and broader. You can see more things, you can react to more things, both through problems and opportunities. In this way, growth creates efficiency, not additional complexity. One way to test this is to ask yourself for each major function, who in your organization owns that outcome. In some cases, it will be you, and that's fine, but there should be some places where there's somebody else who owns not only the task, but the outcome. As you start to create this organization that's ready to grow, that's more responsive, that's more sustainable, hiring is, of course, an important element. Most young companies start out with reactive hiring. You have an issue, you're overworked, you're at capacity, so you hire somebody. Usually you needed that person yesterday. So there's a sense of urgency. And maybe you get a great person, but oftentimes it can lead to just hiring the first capable person you find. So you tend to hire the person and define their role, not really even on today's problem, but on yesterday's problem. It was the one you identified before that you're solving now. With proactive hiring, you want to think about those capability gaps. You want to think about where you're going, what your company is going to need. You define the role, and then you find an employee that can not only fill that role, but can create some opportunity there for themselves and the company. This can put less urgency because you're looking forward, not back, and you can focus on finding the right person who is going to create capacity for your company. So when you look at your recent hires, have you been hiring proactively ahead of a need or reactively? In many cases, it will be reactive. That's fine. Just be aware and think of how you can move to a more proactive approach. Once you've hired these people who are going to help you move to the future, and you've delegated responsibilities, not just tasks, you want to reward them appropriately. In a task-driven organization, people are rewarded for completing tasks, following a procedure, meeting deadlines, and generally staying busy. In a results-driven culture, you want them to own the outcome. They're rewarded on that. Not just on getting it done, but getting it done in a way that makes the customer happy. You want them solving problems, but you also want them innovating. You want them looking for opportunities, whether it's broad business opportunities or just ways that things in their role or in the company could be done better. So can you describe for at least your key roles what doing well looks like if you base it on outcomes and not just on effort? As we talked about in the last module, are you built to grow? And we'll put links to that in the show notes. Culture is key. It is absolutely infrastructure for your company because you do not create this kind of innovative, responsive, proactive workforce unless you have a strong culture. Some of the key elements that help you foster that culture are clear expectations. Does everybody know what is expected? Are the expectations uniform? Not just when it comes to job performance, but behavior. How should you treat your colleagues? How should you behave in a work setting? How should you behave with customers? Each company is going to be a little bit different, but your staff should understand what's expected in your company. This requires a great deal of safety and trust. You want people to be able to express opinions, ask questions. They need to be able to feel secure doing so, even sometimes disagreeing with their manager, disagreeing with you. But you also need to feel safe. You need to trust them. Everybody needs to be able to learn and evolve. Also, to really attract and retain good people, there has to be a sense of opportunity. Everyone should be excited about where the company is going, but they should also be excited about their personal opportunities, their personal growth, their ability to contribute. And everyone should understand the company's goals. They should see how their role contributes, and they should understand not just the how of what they're supposed to do, but the why. Where are you going? Why are you doing it this way? Right now, when you look at your culture and standards, would they hold up if your team doubled in size? Because that's really the question that you're asking. Do you have the team that you'll need to grow? As always, you can access our full list of questions at the link in the show notes below. We always encourage you to work with other business owners because they can share advice and you'll have advice for them. If that doesn't work for you, let us know. Leave comments, send us emails. We will gather what we hear and share it back. Next time in our final module, we're going to talk about what's holding you back. Given all that you've learned, given all that you've done to improve your organization, what's keeping you from the kind of growth and strength that you really know your company can achieve? So please subscribe below to our YouTube channel and sign up for our newsletter at paddlingfuriously.com/newsletter so you can get all of our information, the feedback that we hear from others, and really get the help and the community that you need to help your company grow. See you next time.